Hello and welcome back, class. Today we are going to dive into another true crime event. One most of you have probably heard of. Yes, folks, let's dive into the Lizzie Borden affair. But before we get started, if you like to listen to true crime podcasts, check out Morbid. These girls are amazing. Elena and Ash cover the Lizzie Borden story in episode 96. You can listen to them like I do on Spotify. Also, don't forget to click like, subscribe, share this video. I really appreciate it. Okay. Back to the year 1892. Lizzie Borden is 32 years old. At this point, she's considered basically an old maid. For that time period, she is not married. Her and her sister, Emma, live with their parents. Their father, Andrew, and their stepmother, Abby. However, Emma would be away on vacation when all this goes down. She is not there. The family lived in Falls River, Massachusetts. On this fateful day, which is August 4th, both Andrew and Abby would meet their fate. Now, the nursery rhyme that has become famous is not accurate. Big surprise there. Andrew and Abby would be brutally attacked with a hatchet. The amount of times these two were hit, though, does not quite reach 40 or 41, respectively. Let's just say some exaggeration was used in the creation of that chilling children's nursery rhyme. Really, like a lot of nursery rhymes. Why are they always so dark and disturbing? Now, the family was wealthy, but lived a modest life. Some speculate this may be a reason for the untimely deaths of Andrew and Abby. On this day in question, the only ones at home, besides the victims, are Lizzie herself and the maid, Bridget, or, as Lizzie would call her, Maggie. Their Uncle John had spent the night at the house in the guest room, but that morning had went to visit other relatives in Falls River. Andrew left for work at approximately 9 a.m. Now, whether he went to work or was going for a walk, I'm not quite sure. But he left the house at approximately 9 a.m. the morning of August 4th. Abby went to clean the guest room. It was in here that she would meet her end. According to the forensics at the time, they determined that Abby was facing her assailant when she was attacked. Again, not 40 whacks, but she was struck 17 times, starting on the side of her head with what they determined to be a hatchet. And that cut her just above the ear. This took place somewhere between 9 and 10:30 a.m. Andrew returned to the house around 10:30, and it is reported that his keys at this point do not work in the door. Now, how often they would normally lock their doors during this time period, I'm not sure, but the door is locked and he cannot get in. The maid, Bridget, let Andrew in after she discovered that the door had been jammed. This is why his keys were useless. She would also testify later on that she heard Lizzie laughing at this point, perhaps at his inability to get into the house. She said she couldn't see her, but she thought she was upstairs. Now, Lizzie would deny being on the second floor, which makes sense because remember, Abby at this point is already dead on the second floor, and the body of Abby would be able to be seen if you're on the second floor. Lizzie states that she helped her father take off his shoes, his boots, and put on slippers so that he could take a nap on the couch. But as this crime scene photo shows, Andrew's clearly wearing boots. Now, here is also where I have heard different accounts. Either Bridget is sent to rest upstairs because of her headache, or sent outside to wash windows. Either way, she is out of the house, or in a far removed part of the house. I personally think she was cleaning the windows earlier in the day while Abby was killed, and then in her room when Andrew was killed. Bridget would testify that she was in her room when a little before 11:10 a.m. she heard Lizzie scream from below, screaming, "Maggie, come quick, Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Andrew Borden had been struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like instrument. The first person on the scene, I believe, was Dr. Bowen, who lived across the street. However, there are stories of Lizzie sending Bridget off to get certain doctors. She didn't want an Irish doctor. She didn't want an immigrant doctor. There's a lot of nuances with who showed up and when for that. But you might ask, where was Lizzie while her father and mother, stepmother, were being beaten to death, cut apart with a hatchet? She claimed to be in the barn. And when she came back into the house, she discovered her father dead on the couch. Eventually, her stepmother is also discovered upstairs, and although the police are slow to accuse Lizzie, they do eventually accuse her. And during an interrogation, Lizzie's answers to different police questions shift. Her story changes. And her inability to summon a single tear for her dead parents aroused police suspicion. Then an officer discovered that Lizzie had tried to purchase deadly prussic acid just the day before the murders in a nearby drugstore. We should note that Uncle John was considered a suspect for a while as well, but he had a specific alibi that covered his whereabouts during the time of the murders. The evidence that the prosecution presented against Borden during the trial was circumstantial. It was alleged that she tried to buy poison the day before, as the officer discovered, and that she burned one of her dresses several days afterward. And although fingerprinting testing was becoming commonplace in Europe at the time, the Fall River Police Department was wary of its reliability and refused to test for prints on the potential murder weapon, which was a hatchet found in the Borden's basement. The fact that no blood was found on Lizzie, coupled with her well-bred Christian persona, convinced the all-male jury that she was incapable of the gruesome crime, and they quickly acquitted her. The amazing part of this whole story is even though there was quite a lot of circumstantial evidence against Lizzie, she was acquitted and then chose to remain in Fall River for the rest of her life. Of course, after some legal maneuvering, the girls, Lizzie and Emma, inherited their father's significant estate. Lizzie then bought a home with her sister Emma in the more well-to-do, respectable neighborhood called The Hill, a place she had longed to live in her whole life. Also, sometimes determined to be a motive for the murders, as her father was a well-known penny pincher. They would name this home Maplecroft, and Lizzie would start to go by the name Lisbeth instead of Lizzie. Gee, I have no idea why she would want to change her name. She and her sister Emma even spent more than $2,000 to purchase a 10-foot tall blue granite monument for their famously deceased relatives. But if Borden thought she was going to get a fresh start in town, she was dead wrong. All of her friends abandoned her, people refused to sit with her at church, and children, probably daring each other to tempt the murderess, would ring her doorbell in the middle of the night and pelt her house with gravel and eggs. Lizzie and her sister would live there until 1905, when Emma moved out after a fight with Lizzie. It is unknown what the fight or fights were about. The two sisters would remain estranged the rest of their lives. Lizzie did acquire a taste for alcohol and a liking of theater, two things Emma did not approve of. Lizzie Borden died of pneumonia on June 1st, 1927, and her sister died only 9 days later. Even though they never reconciled in life, they were buried side by side. Lizzie herself was worth $250,000 at the time of her death. That would be the equivalent to $4.9 million today. But did she do it? People still speculate today about it. They did not find any blood on her clothing, but it was reported that she was seen burning a dress days after the murder. It was the middle of the day on a busy street. Did someone really come in off the street and murder not one but two adults? And hung around in between the murders. Had fingerprinting evidence been used? We know for sure. Maybe. Did the uncle sneak back into the house and kill Abby, wait for Andrew, and kill him without being seen by either Lizzie or the maid Bridget? There's definitely a financial motive. Lizzie and Emma were set to inherit their father's estate. But had only Andrew died, the money would have went to Abby. So both had to go. It was well known that Lizzie, who, by the way, was a Sunday school teacher, liked the finer things in life. She did buy poison, or attempted to buy poison, days before the murder. What did she need that poison for? Maybe she wanted to poison them, which is a more common way of murder for women, especially then. But when that was thwarted, she finally got fed up and went after them both with an axe or a hatchet. We may not know for sure, but I, for one, think that Lizzie Borden got away with murder. I think that maybe she finally confessed to Emma years later, and that is why Emma moved out, and the two never talked again. Let me know in the comments below whether you think Lizzie Borden killed her parents. Or, if you don't think she did it, Who did? Also, let me know of any other true crime stories you want me to cover. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something. And as always, keep on learning. Bye.